just, I would say this. I think it's the best weather we've ever had. It was a little windy Saturday night, but even that felt prophetic. But there was no threat of rain, and it was warm, but it wasn't like scorching hot. It was just really, really nice. And BJ did a excellent video of it, and I'll show that in just a minute. But had some really amazing miracles happen. Some of them are still unfolding. I don't know if I'm going to repeat this whole thing again. If you watch my 11:11 this past Friday night, I talked about it. But those of you that were there, you know Tricia, the woman who came down, well, let me tell you about this picture since I'm talking about it. Right there where that sunbeam is hitting her, Tricia, if you're watching, I'm going to talk about it one more time because this is really cool what happened. And stuff continued to happen after we got back. But she began to comment on things a few months ago. And I never know how somebody connects with me online. But she had told me, she had posted that she wanted to come to the meditation weekend. A lot of people tell me that and never show up. So I'm like, okay, I hope that works out. And really excited about it. And then Wednesday of last week, she messaged me. She said, I've had a series of, to say the least, challenges, not the least of which I fell and broke my elbow. And so I just said, you know what, don't stress about it. You'll go to another time. And I didn't even, I think I mentioned it to you. I said, this woman who was going to come, I really feel bad because she was very excited about it. And so, we communicate on the group page. Those of you who have never been to one of these don't know what I'm talking about, but we've been doing these for years. But anyway, she messaged on the group page, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody tonight. So I messaged back and said, you're here? I just assumed, just a few hours before the thing you broke a bone in your body and you're here. And she's, yeah, I said, okay, wow. So Saturday night, I'd already told everybody, I had no people that won't even come if they got the sniffles. This woman, breaks her arm and gets in the car and drives on down. I'm like, I got to tell you, it's something I needed to see because I'm in the valley of decision right now about retirement and whether I should finish this. And, I've been ghosted by so many people and so many people have left that after a while you think, is the universe just telling you to shut the hell up? Have you just lost all of your audience? And I know y'all are streamers, but I'm talking about people who actually care enough about it to get in the car and come here. I know you think it doesn't matter, but you have no idea how much it matters. And I just needed to see somebody cared about it that much. So that was cool. And we prayed for, we put her in the middle of the energy circle, and that was really cool. So the next morning, BJ, of course, is taking pictures. Ken kind of focuses a little differently. Like, he really likes to capture these shadows when it's the sunrise. And full disclosure, among his pictures, there were 2 or 3 of them that had rays of light in them. So I don't want to make this sound like something it wasn't. However, we're out there. Come on in, Aaron. We're out there, and we had a little bit of a snafu Sunday morning because the park that gives us access to the beach was supposed to open at 6 o'clock, but the gate was closed. And we didn't know that you actually, I just assumed there was a Parks and Rec person that would come unlock it. But you actually have to call the non-911 cops to come unlock it, which lesson learned. But in the meantime, BJ and I walked on down there, and I took some pictures of the sunrise. He got some too, which you'll see. So at a certain point, I just texted Avery. I said, those of you that are back there, just whenever the guy gets here to open the gate, just tell everybody, don't worry about your lawn chairs. Just come on in. So they did. So it was fine. One thing, if nothing else, these things have taught me, don't stress about a snag because it doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? It's just, we've done enough of these now. They say a tornado is hitting. We're like, okay, whatever. We just go on anyway. So we're out there, and Ken walks up and he says, look at this picture I just took. Right, that beam is hitting her. That's the sling on her arm. And I was very sensitive to people wearing slings because I had one on not too long ago, and I'm thinking, man, that's a big deal to make this trip by yourself with half of your body out of commission. So that already, I'm not saying the sun healed her. I'm saying it was just very cool. So I said, go over there, show that to her, and get her number and send it to her. So he did. And she immediately got it. Very meaningful to her. She said, most of my life have felt invisible, and for a thing like this to happen, it just is very significant. So on the way back Sunday afternoon, she sends me this long message. I'm driving. I asked Ken to read it to me, there's parts of it I won't divulge, but what I will tell you is amazing. With the 11:11s, I haven't done a lot of them lately because I've been going to bed earlier, and I did one Friday night. This morning we had about 500 viewers. But she said, I had no idea who you were. We didn't have any mutual Facebook friends. I have no idea how your 11:11 showed up in my feed. But suffice it to say, and I'll just say it this way, I've heard some people say your message saved my life. In her case, it was quite literal. And so by the time I hear all this part, we're sobbing. I'm like driving up at 75, like, maybe I will stay in the ministry. Maybe somebody still cares. Because you know how it just gets exaggerated in your mind, and you're like, I know y'all come, but y'all are like, y'all love me. I'm talking about when you have people who have come for years and supported financially and been a part, and then they just disappear, and you just simply ask, is everything okay? They're like, oh my God, yeah, why? I'm like, well, I don't know. You were here for years, and now you're not. Did I do something? No. Why would you ask? I don't know. I don't know if you've ever been ghosted, but it's disconcerting. It can really get inside your head. And so that was already another part of the miracle. Well, then, I don't know, Monday or Tuesday, she messaged me and said, can I call you? So I sent her my number. And she said, I just want to tell you, they told me I was going to have surgery. I went to the ortho guy today, and they can't find a break. There's no break. There's no fracture. So I've been completely healed. I'm like, okay, I'm putting this this is up there. I'm telling you, this is ranking up there with finding my stuff in the bottom of the river. I mean, this is like, okay, miracle. And I just needed, I said, Tricia, I'm glad for you, but let me tell you something. I needed this miracle right now. Because, anyway, so that was really, really cool. And even one night this week, I've been trying to walk every night. Your post really inspired me about walking. And I've got to have this. I thought the CAT scan was last Tuesday. It's this Tuesday to check the thing in my aorta to see what we got to do about that. So, and Ken had everybody pray over me Tuesday. He says it's dissolved, so I'm like, all right. When Tricia told me there was no fracture or break, I'm like, I'm going to claim a little bit of that for my CAT scan on Tuesday. That would be lovely. At least, I'll even take if you're just telling me it's getting smaller. That, at least we're moving in that direction. So, but I was out walking the other night and looking at this piece of art that I didn't even know is called Tree of Life. It just caught my attention that it was modern art, very cool, and this really cool couple were standing there, and I started talking to them about, we ended up standing there talking for like an hour, and we started talking about, doing the thing that they didn't use the word calling, but doing the thing that you're supposed to do, that you want to do, and even if people don't support it or whatever, you just know that that's what you're supposed to do. This may be completely irrelevant, but let me just tell you this thing that just happened to me, because I told them, I said, I'm kind of at a place where I'm sort of figuring out what I'm going to do about my future and stuff. And then I showed them this picture, and I said, this thing just happened. And they were like, these people are not Christians. And they were just like, Oh my God, that's incredible. And it was just, I don't know, it was just kind of cool when a thing like that happens. So, and there were other things that happened this weekend, and some of you might have had a miracle. Uh, Eddie, I think that you came with just your granddaughter. I think that's miraculous. You may never be able to recreate that. And it was just, well, and even at her age, because she's about to be a young woman, and you just captured that right at the. Go ahead. What are you gonna say about it?
If I ever do it again, but
Right.
how precious the little 12-year-old.
Well, that's why.
That wanted to be with her papa so bad for the weekend.
That's why I encouraged you last week, because he told me last Sunday. He said, "I've got a room, but my girls are all Ava's not available. Like I don't know." And he said, "But Savannah wants to come." I said, "You should just come with your granddaughter. That's so cool that you have that with her." And it was awesome. I mean, honestly, everything's a miracle. And as wonderful as that was, I would equate that, you know what I mean? It's like, how many 12-year-old girls want to be with their grandfather? And it's like, and I think Jen said she actually manifested it, because she said, yeah.
At first, Jill and them, their appointment got canceled. She was so disappointed.
Right.
She said, "Make them stay home, Papa."
Yeah.
I said, "I can't make you mama stay home." And then they got a call back. Well, they did have to go to Sarasota. And then Savannah's like, "Oh my God."
I'm telling you. It was a miracle. And even, y'all know Dale and Lee, they may be coming in late today, I don't know. But, I've known them for a long time. And we kind of had a sort of a breach in our relationship a few years ago, because when marriage equality, they actually used to go to Church in the Now. I mean, that's how far back they go. And they were part of Church in the Now Midtown and everything. And then when marriage equality became legal, they wanted me to marry them, but their friends threw a surprise wedding for them, which kind of caught them off guard, had a minister there and everything. And so it was kind of awkward, because they didn't want to hurt everybody's feelings, but then they wanted me to not do anything illegal, but to sign it as if I had married them. And I said, you know what, I'm not going to do that. And you already did it, and it's fine. I'm not mad. We never screamed at each other. It was just we just hit a weird place in our relationship, and they just didn't come anymore for a long time. They told me they still streamed, but I don't know that. Streamers, you can see me, I can't see you. So, anyway, sometime a few months ago, they reconnected and started showing up here again, and that was really good, because I love those guys. And it's one of those things, when you've been through, in 52 years of ministry, I've just had thousands of people come in and out of my life. And over the years, your survival skills become so well honed, it actually works against you. You know what I mean? It's like when somebody leaves, you're like, well, I lost one. I got to, as I always say, I'm a lot like Jesus, except for this. Jesus leaves the 99 and goes finds the one. I'm like, I guess they needed space. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's why it's so laughable anybody ever called me a cult leader, because I'm just the opposite. A cult leader, harasses you and, comes to your house and everything. Me, if I don't see you for a couple of weeks, I forget your name. I mean, just because I'm like, well, I got to prepare for new people, I guess, which actually works against me. A lot of times, like even with Dale and Lee, I probably could have salvaged that, but I've just like, well, I lost some more, so it is what it is. And I don't like that. I want to change that. Does that make sense? When your survival skills are too developed, it actually ends up isolating you. So they wanted, I don't know why this is so important to them, but they wanted to surprise me that they were going to come to the weekend. And they talked to Ken about it. They wanted to have dinner with us. What they wanted to do was to set up, like he has a favorite place there that he likes to go. They said, we just want to be there when y'all come to the table and surprise him. Well, I didn't know Ken was in on that. So I hadn't heard anything about it. So on Saturday afternoon, I had to go down to the car to get something. Friday afternoon, I had to go down to the car to get something, and I get on the elevator opens up, and it's Dale, and he's just standing there, and he didn't say anything. So I thought for a minute, this guy looks exactly like Dale, but maybe it's not him because he's not. Because I had just been through that thing with Flora. I was at the dentist the week before, and this woman, Flora Billings, who came this past weekend, this woman, look, I swear, she was like her doppelganger. She's sitting there in the dentist office, and I'm like, Flora? No. Oh, sorry. So I thought, maybe this isn't Dale. Maybe I think all white people look alike. I don't know. So we just kind of stared at each other. And finally I said, are y'all here for the weekend? He said, yeah, but you're not supposed to know. I said, did I just spoil the surprise? And he said, yeah. He said, don't tell anybody. I said, you can't hide anything from the man of God. Spiritual man judges all things. So ended up, I came up and said, I just saw Dale. The kid said, oh, you weren't supposed to know that. I said, oh, I didn't know this is a surprise. Well, anyway, that the day before had been their 20th anniversary. And so they said, why don't we just, since you didn't get to marry us, why don't we do like a vow renewal? And I'm not sure about vow renewal. And if you made a vow, it's fine. But I said, I'll acknowledge, we'll do something about it. And interestingly, one of the pictures that Ken took also had a ray of light going through them. I thought that was interesting. That, I'd put where I put the energy is where the light went. So so that was really cool, and it gave us a chance. We had dinner with them, and it gave us a chance to sort of get caught up on everything, and just lots of little miracles like that. And also in that conversation, there was a job that Dale really wanted that was out of it's not where his area of expertise is. He said it's kind of one of these things where I'm following my bliss, because he went to school to be an accountant, and he said, I've done that, but I want to do something different. And sure enough, he got the job, and it's like everything since the weekend has just been like, that's why Tuesday, no matter what they say to me, I'm like, I'm getting my miracle. You know what I mean? It's like, best case scenario, it's dissolved. Second best is it's shrinking. And worst case is, it's the same size, or they'll have to. I would like not to have open heart surgery. But even at that, you kind of even have to look into the abyss. Some of you who know Denise Smith, she was in the middle of, a trial about a procedure with her heart, and it got fixed on the way down there. And while I was talking to her on the phone, which was encouraging to me, and everybody encourages everybody. Even Beth, because Beth just had a knee replacement, and I saw she didn't tell us it was her birthday Sunday morning. I'm walking her out to the car. Why didn't you just say, by the way, it's my birthday? She goes, I didn't think it was a big deal. I said, it's the freaking day you were born. Could you just say it's my birthday today? But I noticed she was getting around really well, wasn't using a cane, and she said, I'm really trying to do therapy, my own therapy, and exercise more. And that was something I needed to hear. I thought, you know what, I need to, because I'm not totally out of the woods yet on this one. So that was like, some people would say, well, that's not really a miracle. Yeah, everything's a miracle. And at these meditation weekends, a lot of stuff gets fixed. A lot of stuff gets recalibrated, refocused. It just does. And it takes, it's like you've said a couple of times, you don't realize it at the time. It's days later you start realizing, oh, that got. Yes, exactly. I completely agree. Oh, and then Sunday night when we got back, I called Mom, and these are direct quotes from my mother Sunday night. I love this place. The food is incredible. I've met lots of nice people. They have all this great entertainment. It was just like, and she wasn't BSing. It was like she was effusive. Now, yesterday was, my dad passed away 4 years ago yesterday, so she had a rough day yesterday. But she was so over the top praising it. I said, "Excuse me, Mom, I just got slain in the spirit, and I'm out on the carpet. They just covered my legs with a modesty cloth." And she just kept going on and on about it. Oh, and then she said, "The only complaint I have is the woman in the unit next to me in the middle of the night will scream, and I can hear it. It's very disconcerting." And I've actually gone to the front desk at 2 o'clock in the morning and said, "Does anybody, what's going on with her?" And they say, "Yeah, we're aware." And they actually pay somebody to sit with her so she won't do it because she disturbs the other people. And I said, "This may be completely irrelevant," but I told her this thing that happened. Remember I told you a couple of years ago my neighbors that were fighting all the time and just keeping me up at night? And one day I realized maybe this isn't about me, maybe it's about them. And I went over and touched the wall, and because I could hear them on the other, I could hear stuff breaking on the other side. And I didn't want to get in the middle of that, and it's none of my business. But I said, "God, whatever these people are going through, please help them resolve it and get peace." And I'm telling you, from that moment on, I've never heard a peep out of them. About a year later, they moved. A couple of days after that, driving out of the parking deck, they're walking by holding hands, smiling and waving. So I told her, I said, I can't promise you the same thing will happen. She says, "No, let's do it." So she goes over. She said, "I got my hands on the wall, you pray." And I did. And so I asked her yesterday, I said, "Is the woman still screaming?" She said, "I haven't heard a word out of her since then." So, just miracles are like rings in a pond. You just keep having an echo effect for it. But yes, I do think that for Tricia as well. So what else was I going to say about it? Well, you know what? Since I've talked about it, let's go. Michelle, let's go ahead and BJ put together something really cool. I love how he did this. You've ever done. I just like the way you did that. No, it's good. I like the choice of the music and the way it's just. You're, yeah, you're. No, it's. I don't know why. That's just my favorite one you've ever done. It's like the word auteur comes to mind. It's like you're a filmmaker and you captured it all. That's very good. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. Sometimes micromanaging something makes it worse. Do you know what I mean? It's like it actually serves you if you don't have time. I can't tell how many times I've done a painting and I'm nearly finished with it, and I think, all right, it's done. Just don't mess with it. And I'll just keep looking at it. I'm like, yeah, and I'll do this thing. Like, why did you do that? And I'll be up all night trying to fix some stupid, like, you just couldn't keep your hands off it, could you? You just had to touch it one more time. And so you have to learn when to walk away. Like, okay, it's done. It's done. Don't touch it again. I'm telling you, because like it looks so good, but you messed it up, and then when you try to fix it, that makes it even worse. I mean, I've got stacks of canvases I've thrown away. And it's like, he'll always say, why don't you just paint over it? So I said, it doesn't work that way because the paint has texture to it, and I use a lot of paint. So it's not like a painting a wall. You can't, I mean, you'd have to, anyway. Yeah, very, very good. So we have, first of all, 2 weeks from today, we have Jonah's going to be with us. That's actually going to be on Pentecost Sunday, so that's going to be cool. And we have Meditation Weekend 23 coming up, it's going to fall on Metron's 10th anniversary, the actual day. We actually started Metron August 4th, 2014. So this is very synchronistic. We're going to Driftwood Beach, and I took those. But I could take a picture, too. I took those. But what's really cool about this is last Thursday, Ken I hadn't planned on going down. He said, I want to drive on down tonight because I want to go to Driftwood Beach. I want to get up early and take some sunrise pictures. So we went down, stayed on Jekyll, and I went with him. And I'm really glad I did because I've always wanted to do a sunrise because the beach faces east. But you kind of have to walk through a little wooded area, and I thought, I don't want people to have to do that in pitch black darkness, but it's not like that. There actually is ambient light that's already there. You can easily see your way through. So I feel really good about going back to especially Driftwood Beach. Any of you that saw the Color Purple movie that came out a few months ago that was the film version of the Broadway musical, they filmed a lot on Driftwood Beach. The opening scene where Celie and Nettie are walking behind the guys in a tree playing a banjo, we just saw that tree. So this is going to be really good, and I'm definitely committed to do at least 25 of these. After I get past Metron's 10th anniversary and the 25th, I'm going to make some decisions about what to do next. But if you've ever said you want to go to one of these, you need to go ahead and stop procrastinating. It's like when people say, we keep wanting to come to Metron. I'm like, well, we've only been there 10 years, so like there's no rush. It's only been a decade. One thing is for sure, and this thing with Tricia reiterated it, you do what you want to do, period. I mean, that's just, you do what you want to do. If you want to do something, you do it, period. So, yeah, Ro. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. What was really cool about this weekend, we've had people on the beach come up and join us before. That has happened, but not like this weekend. This weekend was really unusual. Like these two women I think they're from South Carolina. I thought for a minute, because they showed up in the energy circle and they got their hands out, and I was thinking, because sometimes people who I've never met come to these things, so I thought this must be somebody that follows us on Facebook. They didn't. They just showed up. Next thing I know, they're standing in faith for a woman who's going blind. They're out in the middle of the circle. I'm like, I don't even know who y'all are. How did this happen? And then the guy, I noticed you focused on him, BJ. BJ said, Bishop, you've taken now you're attracting hot guys to the, it's a whole new level. I said, the gifts and callings are without repentance. But he was a really sweet guy. Sunday morning, he said, I walked by and something and said, turn around and go back. And same thing with him. He just got right in the flow, and we, which is kind of interesting, and is that what you were talking about? Yeah. I just thought that was it happened on both meetings, that I didn't even have to explain it to anybody what we were doing. They just automatically, we had a thing before, like with those pilots, remember? It's not the first time, but I've never seen it flow that seamlessly. And so that was really cool. Anybody else want to say anything about last weekend, if you had any feedback? All right. So anyway, this one is August 3rd and 4th, and looks like we got about close to 30 people who already signed up to go. So this will be one of our bigger ones. And Jekyll's amazing. It's interesting about Jekyll and St. Simon's. They're adjacent to one another, but they're completely different things. They have a different energy, a different vibe. One's not better than the other. They're just different. I don't know why, but they are. And on St. Simon's, we had the double rainbow and the blue moon. On Jekyll, we had the waters part. So there's always something in nature that manifests. So anyway, very cool. All right. Well, my announcements took the whole time. Thanks for coming. God bless you. No, actually, I am starting a series today. So if we're ready, Charles, if you can hear us. Welcome to the Metron Live podcast, coming to you from beautiful Kirkwood neighborhood in A-Town. Metron people, welcome the podcast people. All right, let me get in this, and I'm going to kind of build a little bit on what I talked about this past Friday night on my 11:11. But my title this month is "Guarding Your Heart with All Diligence." That comes from a phrase in Proverbs 4:23 in the King James. It says, above all, guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it flow the issues, or better translation, rivers of life. And the subtitle is Discerning Trauma, Triggers, and Triumph. And this is interesting because, well, Friday night what I talked about, I just had a strong word that kind of built on something I've talked about before. I've always thought it was unusual that after Jesus came out of the tomb, he was here for 40 days, preaching the kingdom. I've said this so many times in the last 10 years, but when we had our initial planning meeting for Metron, and I actually do have a board of directors, and Danny's on that board, and we were speaking prophetically about what Metron was going to be, and Danny said, I want to find those things that Jesus talked about for those 40 days between the resurrection and the ascension, because there's no record of it. It just says he preached the kingdom. He didn't talk about heaven. He talked the kingdom of God. And so that was that's a huge plank in the platform of whatever Metron is. So depending on how you count it, Jesus, after the resurrection, during those 40 days, appeared either 8, 10, or 12 times. It depends on if you, like some people count the light on the road to Damascus, Saul of Tarsus. It's just, tomato. But I have talked before about, in John 20, I refer a lot about that's where Jesus breathed on his disciples. Well, and said, "Whoever sins you forgive, forgiven. Whoever sins you retain, retain." The verses prior to that, it says that there were 70 disciples. Then Jesus preached this really controversial sermon about drinking his blood and eating his flesh, and he was ghosted by a lot of people. It winnowed down to 12 after that. He never retracted the statement. He was like, "I said it. Sorry, not sorry." And it's kind of a truth about Revelation. You can't explain Revelation. You know what I mean? Either people have it or they don't. And like I can teach you out of the scriptures, but you have to have revelation. I mean, really? You say, "Well, no, Bishop, it's your revelation." No, my revelation is inspiring your revelation. That's what's actually happening. I've never actually taught you anything. I'm a facilitator, and I have an anointing to stimulate people's revelator. Is that the thing? And to also recover you from spiritual amnesia, so that you can let that abide in you, what you heard from the beginning. But everything I've ever said to you, you already knew on some basis. You just didn't know that you knew it. I think it was pretty profound. So, but there were 12 disciples. Judas commits suicide. Of the 11 that were left, 10 of them were locked up in a place. I mean, these guys were freaking out. They didn't know what was going to happen to them next. So they're just sort of holed up in this room, trying to decide what happens now. And in that room of those, everybody was with them except for Thomas. This is where the phrase "doubting Thomas" comes from. Thomas, for some reason, was not with them. And in that setting, Jesus appears to them, and they don't know who he is. Jesus, after the resurrection, still looked humanoid. People could recognize it was a man, but he did not look like the man that they knew prior to the cross. Mary Magdalene, who was most likely in love with him, was right there in the tomb and didn't even recognize. Thought he was the gardener. The men on the road to Emmaus, he walked with them for 7 miles and discussed the scripture. They didn't recognize him until he broke bread with them. But in this instance, he appears and they don't recognize him, but he shows them his scars. He says his hands and his side. And that's how they identified him. So a few days later, they're telling Thomas about it, and Thomas says, "I don't believe it. I won't believe it unless I see it." So a week later, they reassemble, and Jesus appears again, and Thomas doesn't want to just see him. He wants to touch him. So he puts his finger in the scar in Jesus' hand and reaches into his side. Now, what I've taught before, and it's a valid teaching. I'm not taking it back. But what I've taught before is that it's just interesting that Jesus is not only glorified, he's unrecognizable. It's like the caterpillar became a butterfly. It doesn't look anything at all like its previous incarnation, and yet he retains these physical scars from the crucifixion. That's very interesting to me. Like if you've changed that much, how come you still have scars? So I think there's a real truth to that, a real power in that, that we all have scars, and I'm speaking metaphorically right now. We all have scars, but they don't keep us from going to the next dimension. And what I've never taught before is it just had never occurred to me that the only time he showed those scars was in that instance in John 20. The other appearances, Paul says there was one time he appeared to 500 people. They didn't see his scars. And in Matthew 28 it says the disciples followed him out to the Mount of Olives. As many believed, but some doubted. So it wasn't like he was just walking around going, "See the scars." He wasn't making a sideshow out of it. So that's really been in my spirit. Like, that's interesting. It's like maybe you don't show your scars to everybody. Maybe you have to be discreet and know that there's a time to talk about it and a time to shut up about it. And the way sorry, I just feel the Holy Spirit really strong on this right now. I haven't felt that in a minute. When the voice in me starts to speak, the voice that I call the Holy Spirit, when something starts being distilled, every conversation I have will start confirming it. I turn on the radio and a song on the radio is confirmed. It's like everything, whoo! What I'm hearing on the inside, I start hearing on the outside. I've never figured out how to make it happen. I don't know what the stimuli is for it, but I just recognize it. It's like there's a word developing and then starts being confirmed everywhere. So I was already thinking about it. Friday, I have to go in to get a permanent crown. I'd already gotten the temporary a few days earlier when I thought I saw Flora. And I was just being bombarded with messages and prayer requests and everything. And I'm like, so I thought, I better check in. So I checked in at Midtown Dental Center. I said, I'm being crowned. I will return your messages as soon as possible. And somebody wrote on there, with many crowns. And I knew what they were talking about. It's a hymn, Crown Him with Many Crowns, which is talking about seeing Jesus' wounds on the other side. Crown him the Lord of life. Behold his hands and side. Rich wounds yet visible above. In beauty glorified. So I'm sitting there in the chair and I'm like, whoa, confirmation. Sometimes when you're talking to me and I seem to glaze over, it's not that I'm not interested in what you're saying. There's a lot of voices coming from within the house. So sometimes as somebody's talking to me out here, I'm very distracted by who's talking to me in here. Can I say that shallow people don't understand that? Do you hear what I'm saying? The last couple of years ago, I went to, I had to get a crown, another different tooth, and I love my dentist. It's a great office. I love everything about it. I love the location. They're awesome there. I've been going there for years. And but for some reason, the last time I was in there, the lab sent the permanent crown, and the dimensions on it were wrong. And it started, I know this is a first world problem, but it became a nightmare. I had to go 5 times. Every time they would put it in, it would break, or they'd finally get it in, and I'd take one bite and something that would break. And after you go 5 times, you know, even just laying there with your mouth open for an hour on end, 5 times in a row, it's like I was getting really weary with it, you know. We got through it. They finally got it fixed. The dentist actually, you know, I could tell he was super stressed about it, actually refunded half of my money. He said, you've been through so much, because crowns are not cheap. I mean, even with, I'm on Ken's insurance, even with that, it was over $1,000 just for the, you know, just for the crown. And so we got through it, and I wasn't even going to bring that up again, because I thought that's old news. Well, we're sitting there in the dentist's office, and everything's groovy. I love his hygienist. She's super nice and really makes you relax and offers you gas and offers you headphones, and especially because the women that work for my cardiologist are part of the SSI, you know, they're previous Nazis, and they just meet you and go, your blood pressure's too high. I'm like, you're making it too high. I'm scared of you, mean lady. I mean, they're all that way. It's like a whole thing when I go. I've got to break this stronghold with them because they just scare the hell out of me. And I'm already stressed about my blood pressure, and they're like, come in here, blood pressure boy. I'm like, I'm trying to bring it down. You scare me so much. So this woman is I just love her because she makes you she's just great. She's like, you're doing fine. I love you, dental hygienist. So we're sitting there, and he's getting ready. He's telling me what's going to happen, and they're playing, for some reason, they're playing a track of Michael Jackson music, and the three of us are like, Billie Jean, do you need gas? I'm like, no, I'm good. He's just a girl who says that I am the one. It's like, it's all good. And then I just said, I hope this permanent is the right one. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, you remember last time I was in here, all that stuff that happened. And just, if you ever just said something and you just feel like, womp, womp. It's like the energy in the room just went, I saw him drop his eyes, and she looked really, and I said, I'm not blaming you for that. I know y'all had issues with the lab. He said, yeah, I know, but I really hate it. I said, no, forget I said it. I don't even know why I said it. This is the day the Lord has made. I mean, I really did. I was like, that's old news. Like, let's go back to Billie Jean. Not like I just hated that I stunk up the room with this bad memory. You understand what I'm saying? And so as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking all this stuff about Jesus' glorified body, crown him with many crowns. Then I say this thing, and I thought, there's some things from your past that you really need to shut up about. It's kind of what I talked about last month. Know what rooms to lock and what rooms to unlock. So I'm kind of building on that. Jesus didn't show his scars to everybody. Y'all still with me? So we got past it, and I said, just so you know, Dr. Suits, his name. I said, I'd be happy to write this in a review. I said, but your hygienist is great. I love her. She really makes you relax. She's super attentive. And he said, no, I really appreciate that, and I've heard that before. But I could tell, I brought the vibe back up. But it just taught me, like, man, Solomon was right when he said there's a time to speak and there's a time to be. I should have just shut up. And it was fine. I was out of there in no time, and the thing fits, and it's all good. He said, well, that's not that big a lesson. No, it was a big lesson to me because I'm very much about vibration. And I hate when I'm the one that takes it down. I'm the guy that brings vibrations up. And I know my words are powerful. Even last Thursday, when I went to see Jonah and Sophie's new house, Debbie was there, and Judah was there, and I was telling them some of the things I'd been through with Mom and whatever, and even Debbie said to me, she hadn't said anything like this in a long time, she said, well, your words really have power. She said, you have to remember you're the magic, and what you say happens. And I was like, maybe I am. Bishop, don't you know that by now? You'd be surprised how much sometimes you can second guess yourself, So, lots of stuff going on like that. So, that's what I talked about Friday night. You can find it on my page if you want to go watch it. About maintaining your scars, but they can identify you, but they're not the totality of your identity. If all you do is talk about your scars, you're really self-sabotaging. You have to save that for the appropriate time because the scar is supposed to be a testimony. If the scar is a complaint, it's counterproductive. If the scar is a testimony, like if you can tell the story without crying, you've healed enough to talk about it with detachment. If you talk about it and start crying, I mean, like you and me falling apart, you're not ready. It's not a scar yet. It's an open wound. You hear what I'm saying? And you have to discern that. And I just heard that from the dentist chair. So yesterday, I'm getting to my outline. I'm going to go through it quickly. Some of you are like, dear God, he's not even to his points yet. How long are we going to be here? Don't rush me. These Sundays may be numbered, so. Anyway, what day was this? What is this? This must have been. That's the same day. This is Friday. Friday morning. we haven't sold Mom's house, and if we do, it's not going to be anytime soon. We're not in a rush to do that. We'll do that if we have to, but right now, and Jared is buying a house in the same neighborhood where Joan and Sophie live. He already had a contract on one, but he decided he didn't want that one. He's looking at a different one now. But in the meantime, I told him he's in Spain right now. I told him, I said, I'm in no rush to get you out of here. I said, in fact, I actually like somebody being here at the house to look after things. So you're not, I'm not, if suddenly I become your landlord, I'm not kicking you out, which he appreciated. So, my Uncle Don lives not across the street, but adjacent cul-de-sac. So they ride by the house constantly. So my cousin LaDonna texted me and said, Friday morning, as I'm going to the dentist, she says, hey, I just want to tell you the garage door's open at your mom's. Jared pulled his truck into the garage. He'd done that before he left. So, and she's like, I couldn't, she said she couldn't get it down. I think that's what she said. Or I think she just said, she just became she's had a grandbaby. Yeah, yesterday, day before yesterday. So cute. She said, I want to let you know the garage door is open. I said, you know what? It may be Jared. He might have already come back. He might be back from Spain, but I'll check on it. So I texting is amazing. You can text somebody in Europe, and they're writing right back to you. So I texted him a very just benign text. Hey, LaDonna says the garage door's open. Are you back, or do I need to go close that? And he said, no, I'm not back. I paid a guy to mow the lawn, and he had to get the code to get in the garage to get the lawnmower, but I was explicit with him about closing that. And I said, it's no big deal. I'm not yelling at you. I'm just asking, is that you, or do I need to be aware of it? And so I'm in one of those things where I'm texting, Don goes by and he says, I can't get the garage door down, but it looks like the power is still on. So, I've got, and people with prayer requests, like I don't know why everybody comes at one time. But they don't show up here, but boy, they text me. So I'm trying to remember who did I just text, because LaDonna's going to pick up her granddaughter, and Dawn's, So Jared said, he texts back, he says, I can't believe that guy left the garage. I was emphatic. I said, Jared, it's fine. I'm not upset about it. I'm just asking, are you back yet? And he says, no, I'm not coming back to the 7th. So I just said, while I'm in conversations with everybody, I just said K, meaning, okay. Well, he writes back, and he wouldn't mind me saying this. He writes back and he said, like, he read way too much into the K. Like, are you upset about this? And I know he's wanting to appear responsible for the house, and it's like I'm accusing, like you're not taking care, and that's not what I meant at all. So he kind of got upset a little bit about it, and I just said, Jared, it's fine. And that's probably the battery out in the thing, which it was. I drove over there and fixed the thing in the garage. It's all fine. And I texted him back, and I said, don't yell at the guy. He probably wasn't able to close the garage door and just didn't think to tell you. It's fine. The grass looks good. He did a good job. The door is down. Everything's fine. Mom's happy at the place. It's all good. Enjoy your trip. So last night, he calls me, and so I answer. I said, hey, what's up? He said, they're at some festival. He said, I had no idea this. There's like 20,000 people at this town in Spain. He said, I'm about to walk out on the stage to do this thing, but he said, I don't like the way it felt when we weren't yelling at each other, but he said, the fact that I kind of got upset when you just said K. I said, I didn't understand why you were, but it's not that big a deal. He said, it just occurs to me that when I've had situations with girls and we were going through arguing or breaking up or something, there's a way they would say K that just seemed dismissive. And he said, it just went all over me. I got really upset, and I realized this isn't about you. I said, it's so funny you said that, because this is what I'm talking about this month. I said, you weren't upset with me. You were upset with girls that you've had issues with. What's that got to do with scars? Well, I said, this is what I'm talking about, Jesus. You have your scars. He said, oh, my God, that's so much what we talk about in recovery. And I said, well, you're scarred in an area, and what you have to do is identify it. Like, why does that make, because this wasn't about me. I just said, okay, it's fine. Am I giving y'all too many detail? And like, why did that upset you? And it's, human relations are interesting to me. I thought, well, that's very curious, because usually when somebody flies off the handle at you, it's always about something's going on with them. What's that book, The Four Agreements? One of those agreements says don't take anything personally, and that really is the truth. There's so few things that are about you, you have no idea. It would hurt your feelings if you knew how many things are not about you, which, now that I've said all the stuff about people ghosting me, a lot of that may have nothing to do with me. It just may be where people, because, there's people that used to go to Metron, and I'm like, is everything okay? They, oh, yeah, we love you. I'm like, okay. Because to me, love is you still show up on Sundays. That's my love language. Clearly, that's not how they see it, because they're like, no, why would you think anything is wrong? Oh, I don't know. If Ken just suddenly left me, and I'd be like, are you okay? Yeah, why? Well, I don't know. You used to come home. You're not here now. I'm like, no, I love you. I'm like, so are you coming back? Or no, but you were great. I'm like, I mean, is it just me, or is it that kind of confusing? I'm like, no, you'll always be the voice in our life, and we'll never see you again. I'm like, okay, odd, but okay. So I do have to say, a lot of times, this is not about me. Empty seats are not about me. This is their journey. So I will say that. All right. Having given you way more context than was necessary, let me show you these verses. This is Proverbs 4:23 in the New King James Version. Keep your heart. The 1611 says, guard your heart. The New King James says, keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life. The reason I want to use this again is what's happening to you on the inside is affecting what's happening to you on the outside. So when he says keep your heart, guard your heart, he's like maintain the quality of this, because out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. All right? Let me show you this in the, what's the second one up here? Number 2. It's the same verse, but I want to show it to you in the NIV. Okay. I gave my prologue was so long. I think that we lost the connection. Say what? It froze. You know what? It's fine if we don't get to it. Y'all hear what I'm saying, though? Like, scars are part of the identity. They're not the whole identity. We don't just overcome by the blood of the Lamb. We overcome by the word of our testimony. But we don't just talk about that testimony all the time. There's no point in me bringing up a bad memory at the dentist. And I just learned from that. I thought, don't do this again. Don't bring up something negative, because it has no bearing on what's happening right now. We get back up, or should I? Say what? Okay. Well, you know what? If I have to just put a comma there and start and finish this next week, I can do it. We'll give it a second. Devil is a lie. Every head bowed, every eye closed. Saints are praying. Yeah.
What you've been saying, I do believe that a lot of people that no longer come still do really love you. Just in the same sense, should you decide in the future that you're not going to do this any longer, years down the road, doesn't mean you love any of us any less.
Fair enough.
Church world, the last 10 years has went through a massive
No doubt.
mind screwing about church gathering.
No doubt.
And like I know my two daughters, they think the world of gym and meditation. They don't like the concept of being
Right.
every Sunday in a church.
Right.
So I do know that a lot of that's going on.
Agreed.
You know?
No, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
All right. I understand.
We'll just often have church or wine.
Yeah.
They'll be telling them on everybody.
Quit us.
No.
He don't know how. He thinks Jesus will get mad at him.
I wish I could quit you. Are we not coming back? We're not coming back?
It's still.
Okay. Well, maybe it's the universe. Or saying, no, seriously, you need to stop this. Now even the internet's like, no, you've said enough. Shut up. What, Beth?
Thinking, and I probably should have said it earlier when you were asking about the meditation weekend. It was very significant for me, more than it just being my birthday. And more than just overcoming some of the health issues I've had the last few years. I had to totally get myself out of my own head and out of my comfort zone. Because I've mentioned it here, and you know, I've had some mental health issues following a lot of years of difficulty and pain and loss. And I've kind of kept myself in this little bubble, and this is part of my little bubble. I love everybody here. I feel totally comfortable and at peace here. But to go out on the beach and feel all of walking out on the beach and any struggle trying to get there, any struggle sitting in a chair, trying to get up. Of course, the wind, I mean, I got totally blown with the wind. So it was just like, okay, I don't look the way that I want to look if somebody's going to be photographing me, you know? And it's like, okay, I'm 67. I know it's not going to be perfect.
By the way, I thought you looked great in the pictures. I thought you looked like really cool, and I thought you looked very young. I'm serious.
Well, I appreciate that, I do, but it's just, I know that if there was ever something that was a word for the meditation weekends, it's just get yourself out of your head.
Exactly.
And get out of your comfort zone. If you're meant to be there, there's a reason.
Yeah.
And there's more that's been happening to me as I've come back home and got back into my comfort zone. It's like, wait a minute. There's something more that I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not done. I'm retired,
Right.
but I'm not done. And there's things that I keep seeing that I want to do, that I'm gonna do, and I just have to keep forcing myself to get out of my comfort zone and listen. Just
I love it. I
listen.
think it's significant you did it on your birthday, too. I think
Yes.
All right. Here's Proverbs 23 in the NIV, and for some reason, I've never read this translation. No, I'm thinking of the next one. Anyway, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. I think that's fair. Here's the one I want to show you. This is number 3. This is Psalm 51:6. Before you show it to you, this is, when Nathan the prophet comes and rebukes David for what he did with the whole thing with Bathsheba. And in David's prayer of repentance, in the King James, he says, you desire truth in the inward parts. Let me show you what it says in the English Standard Version. Behold, you delight in truth in the inward being, and you teach me wisdom in the secret heart. I've never heard that phrase before, meaning there's a heart that really is the hard drive of your life. Maybe that's your subconscious, but you don't even know that it's in there. Like, for instance, have you ever had a reaction to somebody for good or for bad. And you think later, where did that come from? Why did I react so strongly to them? When they say the heart wants what it wants, the heart, it does. I mean, like in the positive, have you ever felt yourself attracted to somebody who doesn't fit the description of what you would normally be attracted to? And you think, why am I feeling this for this person? Because this isn't what I usually like. And yet, you can't explain it. By the same token, you can have a negative situation with somebody. You think, I can't put my finger on it. I don't know what it is, but I just feel a disconnect from this person. It's because everything's coming from in here. And when it says you desire truth in the secret heart, I'm going to come back to that. I've got the rest of the month to do it, but let me just give you this skeleton so you know where we're going. I may use all these next week again. This is Psalm 19:13 in the Tree of Life version. This is where, right before David says, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable. Here's what it says in the Tree of Life. It says, who can discern his errors? Cleanse me of hidden faults. And this is why, when I talk about faults, I'm not talking about some bogus holiness thing. I'm talking about figuring out why you're triggered in certain areas. Where did they come from, so that you can diffuse the triggers? That's the errors I'm talking about, okay? I think this next one's a meme, isn't it? Okay, let me show you this. It says, avoiding your triggers isn't healing. Healing happens when you're triggered and you're able to move through the pain, the pattern, and the story and walk your way to a different ending. That's why I'm calling this discerning trauma, triggers, and triumph. This isn't to get us all in a fetal position on the ground talking about sad tales. This is, how do I recognize the scars that are still in my glorified body that I may need to refer to on occasion because they identify me without limiting me. They don't keep me in the body. I'm able to go to the next level. Speaking metaphorically here. But when there are scars that are pressure points that cause, and I know the word trigger is overused these days, but it's really a thing. I don't want to bring the room down with this, but I've referred to this before, but some of the issues that particularly black men have had with cops. This is one thing that it just struck me so much. This was years ago. I've referred to it before. It was a man in Florida. I don't even remember what the deal was with it. But it was a black man. He'd been arrested. He was sitting on the street with nothing in his hands. The cops were around him, and he said, "Don't shoot me. I am not armed. I'm not resisting arrest." And this white cop still shot him. It didn't kill him. I think it shot him in the leg. But what was interesting is they asked the cop later, like, why did you shoot him? Like, if a man is running toward you and you in self-defense, all right, I can understand that. I don't think all cops or even all white cops are racist. I don't think that. It was just interesting to me that he said it was something in me that I couldn't control it. It's like there was something in his secret heart that saw a black man as dangerous. And he says, I don't know why I did it. Because the man was no threat to any of them. He's on the pavement, hands up, do not shoot. I don't have anything on me. And the guy said, I couldn't help it. I still shot him. See, this is why deep has to call to deep. Because I'm going to tell you something. I'm not going to make this about racism and homophobia and all that kind of stuff. But until you get to why do people feel the way they feel on a subterranean level, all this other stuff doesn't get fixed. You can change legislation and change laws, and I'm all for that, but it still doesn't fix the problem. Do you understand? Racism is triggers. Homophobia is triggers. Ken had somebody from his, I won't say who, somebody from his past who messaged him this week. And the question was, I just have a question, if gay men just follow what's naturally to them, what makes it different for like a child molester if they're a pedophile? And it just, he didn't interpret it that way. I said, that is such a homophobe. I said, don't even answer. I mean, you wouldn't want to know some of the language. Like, how dare somebody even, like, that's just such a homophobic thing to even ask. Again, he didn't, I don't think, he read that into it because it's somebody he has fondness for. But she better not ask me that. I'm about to follow an impulse. I don't know why I have an impulse to pronounce a curse on you. But there are things that people do involuntarily. They don't even know why they do it. That's why I'm talking about, it's like that scripture in Jeremiah where God rebukes the prophets and he says, you have healed the hurt of the daughter of my people slightly, saying peace, peace, where there is no peace. I may get into more of that, but you see where I'm going with this. But I like this because it says just avoiding your triggers isn't healing. Now I'm going to show you, this next thing I'm going to show you completely flies in the face of what you heard in church and what a lot of people say. This resonates with me. And I believe it will with you. Let me show you this. Number 6. Trauma did not make you stronger. Now, haven't we always heard, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger? And in the big picture, yes. In the big picture, yeah, I understand all the symbolism when the bone is broken and it heals, the bone is stronger than it was before. I mean, I understand all that. But when people have been seriously traumatized and other people just say, it made you stronger, like, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but it hurt like hell, and it's stuff I deal with every single day of my life, and it's easy for you to be dismissive of it and just say, love your scars, embrace your scars. The scars also bring up a lot of painful memories. I mean, going back to Jesus on the cross was horrific. It was horrible what he went through. Wouldn't the human impulse be like, I don't want to remember anything about that? Sometimes you have to. But again, as I've said many times, your car has this big expensive glass called a windshield, and in the middle of it is a small rearview mirror. And it's because you need to see where you've been, but not all the time. If you drive down I-285 looking in the rearview mirror, you're going to have a wreck. So the big picture is keep looking forward. That's why you have that expansive glass. But you do need to keep that little mirror up there to remember some things. Feel me? It says trauma did not make you stronger. It traumatized you, broke your heart, dysregulated your nervous system, gave you PTSD, sleepless nights, trust issues, connection difficulty, almost killed you and stole your will to live. You made and make yourself stronger by surviving. Well, Bishop, it's the Lord did it. No, I got nothing against the Lord. Me and the Lord are fine. But you know, how many times have I told you this? When one time I was saying I started the Church of the Now in 1985, and a guy said, you didn't start this church, God did. I said, well, let me tell you something. There's an old joke about a farmer who grew a garden. And he said, I grew this garden. And somebody said, you didn't grow this garden, God did. He said, yeah, well, you should have seen what it looked like when God had it all to himself. So, believe me, the Lord's self-esteem is intact. Yes, in him we live and move and have our being. Yes, I know all that. But, buddy, sometimes you got to do the work. You got to deal with the difficult things. Today in my memories, because it was my dad had died 4 years ago yesterday. So in my memories 4 years ago, I was posting lots of pictures, memories of him. Not all my memories of him are good, even up to the end. But I want him to be honored, and I There's pictures of churches that he pastored, whatever. And this morning when I was posting them, I thought, it's interesting. I can post these, and I feel fine about it. I'm like, no, I want people. I'm glad they know that side of him, because that side of him is real. How can you have traumatic memories of somebody and still honor them? Because you can. Because there's good in them and there's negative in them. And what happened in church world, and that's why I think so many church people are so messed up, is nobody gets to tell the truth about what happened. So if something happens, everybody's like, oh, forgive him. It's under the blood. It's under the blood. Forget those things that are behind. And yes, I understand in theory, but in the real world, people are really dealing with the secret heart. And there's so many triggers in there, it's like a minefield. And so people go to church and go, I'm desperate for you. I'm like, no, you need to put your hands down and go get some therapy. Or go talk about this with somebody who can help you. That's like, God knows he's great. That's great. If you want to, God knows he's God, how great. I know. God's great. You need to get your act together. Worship's beautiful. That's fine. Get outside of yourself. But there's a reason why. Because let me tell you something about triggers, baby. And you could probably speak to this. Triggers affect your physical body. That's why it's called dis-ease. I don't think everything is emotional. Not everything is spiritual. A whole lot of it is. I mean, there's stuff about your left side. I mean, on more than one occasion. I mean, she's done such a good job fixing me. I haven't been to her as a chiropractor in a long time. But when she would go, she would adjust. Talking about Dr. Sheila, she'd adjust me, but without even realize it, give a word of knowledge. One day I had to take my parents out there, and it was both of them. I mean, I don't want to just be whining about this all the time, but taking care of both of them for these last 10 years has been a lot. And that one particular day, oh my God, just getting them in and out of the car, and my dad didn't know where we were going, and I'm trying to explain it to him, and it was just like, oh God, help me. I need a sibling. And I took them out there to get something done, adjustment maybe. And Doc says, do you want to get adjusted? I said, I didn't come for me. She said, well, I think you need it. So I go get on the table, and I remember she said, I feel like I'm pulling black ribbons out of you. It's like the what you're going through right now. And I was like, whew, and I felt it. People are dealing with, the real life is lived underneath the surface. Like we're all icebergs. You know what I mean? The us that everybody sees is just a little bit, but under that water, there's a whole lot of stuff. I'm going to come back to this, but let me wrap this up with this one more. Trauma creates change you don't choose. Healing is about creating change you do choose. Now over here, on this extreme is, la, 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 nothing happened, everything's fine, forgive and forget, move forward, 70 times 7, forgetting those things. That's over here. Over here is, I can't stop talking about it. It's affecting my body. Everybody around me dreads me because all I do is complain. Neither this nor this is where you can live. You have to find a place somewhere here where you can say, I'm walking in my glorified body. Once in a while, I need to show you the scars in my hands and side. Let's all stand. It took me a while. I circled that airport a few times, but I finally landed that plane. Trust the pilot. We're going to land this plane. Put a comma there because we're going to go a little bit Can you handle going a little deeper? All right. Play the outro, and then I'll speak a blessing over you. Thanks for staying with me.
Text the amount you'd like to donate to 404-620-5044. You will then receive a notification that you successfully completed your donation. You may also visit BishInTheNow.com and click the support tab to give there as well. When you contribute to Metron, you're also donating to the charity or organization of the month. Thank you for your investment into Metron.
If you have a check, make it to JESM. If you have cash, pay it forward. And Spirit of God, I've told everybody what I believe I'm supposed to tell them. Whatever we set into motion for this month is to take us to a healthier place. With the butterfly effect, when we get healthier, the world gets healthier. And so I just say that it flows out of us. Just lift your hands up right now. I speak peace, wellness, blessing, wholeness, restoration, recovery, light, wellness, serenity, unity, harmony, every good and perfect gift, the wisdom of God, the knowledge of God, the life of God. I bless your secret heart. You have a beautiful day and a beautiful week. God bless you. Go in peace.